Okay, so I'm gonna record this. Hopefully someone will watch it. Currently, the view rate is 4 on these videos, which makes them going, I'll just do it for the one, right? It's all about the one now. Let me bring up the Canvas course and kind of explain what I'm doing here. There's a new link at the very bottom of your matrix for your assignments. So Utah Architecture Engineering Pathways. This is that virtual build day with Weber State. It's doing our concurrent enrollment. It's also to let you become pathway completers and look at job options. I created a series of really short assignments for distance learning day. This is primarily because some of you, quite a few of you that have been distance learning only, have not submitted anything yet. And I need a grade. I am begging for you to just connect to the course for 25 minutes. So let me kind of go over what this is. And so you guys that are always here, you're on task, you're doing your thing. I didn't want this to penalize you guys either, but it is kind of a good way to get a feel for what your future might be. And I'm not a big fan of picking your life path as a junior or a senior. There's a reason why we have general ed courses. That's to figure out what your life's going to be. I am not a fan of general ed degrees, though. So if you go and get a general ed degree in like associate degree of general studies, you are wasting a whole bunch of money. When you declare a major, the number of general electives you have to take diminishes exponentially, so that you can focus on something. So I always tell as many students as will listen, when you start college, whether that's at Salt Lake Community College, Weber State, SUU, U of U, start with an associate's degree and have a thing you can check off that you made a step forward, but pick an associate degree that's going to give you a career track, because the other degrees cost a lot more money. Bachelor's degrees are expensive, master's degrees are expensive, doctorate degrees are very expensive. So you want to have something to help pay for you to go to school that pays better than what is going to become the minimum wage of $15 an hour as soon as January hits here. I want you to be aware that that's going to cause a huge decrease in the number of jobs available. Every time the federal government ups the minimum wage, those low-end starting jobs disappear. They get replaced by equipment. If you don't believe me, look at Walmart and how many cashiers are still there. When they did the last update on the minimum wage, Walmart replaced half their cashiers with self-checkouts. They will all be gone in January. That's a pretty substantial number of jobs in the United States with just Walmart. So that means for you guys, you need to look out for yourself, because you are numero uno, and have a battle plan in place. Because I know that at least for most of my students who are Caucasian, and I am picking on the white boy, refuse to work fast food. Well, guess what? It's not being an option for you anymore, okay? It's going to go as a career now. $15 an hour is a career wage, not a minimum wage. That's more than most starting teachers make. And that's with a bachelor's degree. So the whole economy is going to get upended, and there's not a whole thing we can do about that. Oh, that's good. Thank you, Victor. At least get to see you guys one day. It's the A-Day kids I'm not going to see. That's the bad side. Okay, so what we've got here is, here's your engineering tab. I'm just going to click this module open. There's a good chance there'll be an error or two in here, because I just did it this morning. But the first link here is exactly what was in the announcement a week and a half ago. And I'm just going to go through these for just a minute, because I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, but I want you to have some hope in your future, because you guys are brilliant. And the houses that you guys are doing are really quite well done. I am so happy with what's happening. So first, this is that Weber Design Day. We did add a video that kind of explains the pathways a little bit more. This is what you were supposed to kind of go over with your parents. These are the forms that need to be filled out before you can sign up. And I've got to wait for you to get back to me now, because I don't know if we will be back after Thanksgiving. There's a lot of talk right now just shutting schools down between Christmas and Thanksgiving. Fortunately, we are pretty far along in our house, which is a good thing. I have pushed you guys much harder than I normally would have, and maybe that's a good thing. I've got to figure that all out. But so these are the forms are here. You do have to complete these applications and forms before you can be officially on. That's a Granite School District requirement. And I'm going to show you where you can put that all in there as we go through here. To make this a little larger so it's a little easier to see in the video. The next area you come to in here is that new video. It's the same video, it's just in the lot. So it's in there twice. I figure if you miss it, you'll get it. It is all of 3 minutes. So you guys keep track of the minutes here for your distance learning day. I really shut this thing down tight. So 3-minute video. It talks about the programs at Weber State, which is our host school for enrollment, so that makes sense. You can find similar programs at just about every college in Utah. Okay, so that's a good thing. Then after you get the video, you're going to answer 3 questions. If it takes you more than 5 minutes, you didn't watch the video. So 5 minutes, 3 questions in the text box. Just answer the question. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? What did you learn? So basically, it's whether careers you didn't think about. A big part of finding a career is getting to find the one that is just right for you, that's to keep your interest. Does that mean you have to stay there your whole life? No. Most people change careers, not jobs, careers every 7 years. But if they're related, that changeover is much easier. So much easier. So kind of just a little exploratory there. Just off the video. It's just off the 3-minute video. Okay. We're at 8 minutes now. 2 more minutes. This is a PDF file. It is basically the impact that construction has on Utah's economy. Just kind of look it over. 2 minutes. Just quick peruse over. Maybe even less. If you're a speed reader, it'll take less time than that. Then we have a career exploration for 5 minutes. This is the Utah Career Paths. And then the site here specifically for what's going to answer these questions. So this is, again, linked to Weber State. This is directly linked to what will answer these 4 questions. Okay? There are 11 career paths that are affected by this program, this Utah Architecture, Engineering, Construction Pathway. There's 11 career fields in there. You're going to look to find out what the job titles are, and you're only going to look at the one that interests you most. If you don't want to be a plumber, don't look at plumbing. That's kind of a waste of your life. But if you want to be an interior designer, or a landscape architect, or a contractor, or developer, or city planner, look those up and see what's needed there. You're looking for what your mid-career salary would be. That means you've worked there for maybe 5-10 years. Where's your salary at? That's about when you're buying your home, and that's about when you're having kids and all that kind of stuff. What's the hourly wage to be for the first 5 years? And what's the type of person that fits in those personality profiles? So just kind of getting a little bit more about yourself, pretty quick, 5-10 minutes. Don't kill yourself over it. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to help you find hope in a future that's been kind of bleak for the last year. So, and we're all there. We're all there. We're all there. Then this one, 1 minute. All this is the different majors of different areas here on the Wasatch Front. This is not an exhaustive list. I did not put in, mainly because I did this in 2 minutes. I didn't put in the Southern Utah schools. Snow College isn't there. I didn't put in SLIC because trying to find what majors are at SLIC is kind of a tricky endeavor. They're kind of their website's a little weird. But this gives you an idea of where you can go. At least if you're not thinking you want a full-on degree, the Ogden Weber and Davis Tech Centers are really good ways to go. You don't have to have a degree to be successful. You do have to have certifications and tech and skill sets. So whether you get that the hard knock way of just going and working your way up by being an apprentice or getting some education to skip a few steps, that's up to you. But the idea here is that you can do things without going full on regular college, but you do need some kind of way to prove your voucher. So there's links to the construction management program, architecture and interior design at Weber State to look at those. Weber State probably has the strongest public interior design program in the state right now. If you want to go private, Westminster has one, but the tuition's really high. And they have a pretty good program, but it's smaller and not as well known statewide. But Weaver State has a really good interior design program for you to look at. So 1 minute there, just kind of, yeah, cool. Because most of you, if you're a senior, you need to be making your college applications now if you want to get early scholarship review. Those are typically due middle of November. There's a little bit of lag this year, but you do want to make sure you kind of have an idea of where you're at having after graduation. The last one here is just register. Go ahead, once you get those paperworks, they're here again, the links to the papers that you need. You can upload them all here, so I have them on file. You don't have to worry about printing them off. You can just submit them all here, and I have them. Yes. For the job interviews, for some of the jobs. Some of the jobs, like you can't run a forklift if you're 16, but if you're 17, you can. Now, the contractors will, if you put your name, your age down anyway on there, because there's jobs that they'll hire you for if you get the interview, but there's some things like heavy equipment that the federal law does not allow you to run. One of those is like a forklift or a backhoe. Doesn't mean that doesn't happen, that a 16-year-old's out digging trenches, but legally they're not supposed to. Okay, so that's just kind of directs where you're at. So what might be as a 16-year-old, you might be doing some framing. You can work with hand tools. That's definitely allowed, but not the big heavy equipment. Does that make sense? That's why they have that disclaimer on there. Okay, and then you just upload the files here, and you get points. I'm going to make this. I know that I'm not on proficiency-based grading. If you haven't figured that out yet, that's kind of cool. This will be bonus. Okay, this will be bonus, and that's because I can do that, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to find every loophole I can this year, and just then to use it, because I don't know how long we'll have. Okay, so it's really, we're up to 15. I can't remember how many minutes it was. Let me count them all up. So we got 3, 8, 18, 19, 24 minutes. That's all I'm asking of you. Just 24 minutes, 100 points. Okay, easy peasy. Any questions from the quiet gallery online about what we just talked about? I really need to get a cricket sounding sound effect. I need to get one. That's what I'll guess that for Christmas. Maybe Santa Claus will bring that to me. Okay, let's get to the nitty gritty of what we're working on today. Bye-bye coursework. Hello, all fully roofed house. I did get my resolution. If you guys remember last time, there was a real problem with the roof right here. The only solution was to put a wall there. Again, as you're working out these, your style, your design, it very well may be you need to move a wall, add a wall, or change the layout completely. When you're working with a roof system, that's just how it works. You can't anticipate every problem from just looking at the way the rooms are. You have to get into where you look at the elevation and how to address that. Now, as we're looking here, this one's pretty much in its final composure stage. I've got a lot of wood exposed on this though, especially around my fascia. And that's good, but just to remind you, you can create in your manage area materials. And I'm just going to create one real quick as a reminder, because that's what I do is repetition. I'm going to create a forest green. Whoops, gotta redo my stuff right. I'm going to rename this to forest green paint. And then go to my appearance and create the color I want. And I want just a nice kind of a quasi darker pink color. It's right there. And we'll add that in and then hit OK. There's my pretty, it looks pretty bright right here, but it's not right. And apply that. And just to remind you that when you go into your modify area, your paint tools are right here underneath insert, the second one down. And once you get that set, where'd it go? It would have helped if I would have followed my own rules, and I didn't. So bad teacher. There's my green paint. You can come in and paint these trims. Whoa, not that. And so you can get that effect. So you can put some color to your house and add it in. Architecturally, yes, Hallie, you do have to have the signature of those documents. You can electronically sign those. So if you do that, you type the name on, and then you just put initial, this is my electronic signal, in like brackets, and that will suffice. But do make sure your parents are aware that don't do it for your parents. Make sure they're aware of it, that you can digitally sign those, and that'll be fine. But yeah, your parents do have to be aware of that. Okay, mainly because you're gonna get people calling you, asking you for job interviews. And one, it can be annoying if you're calling the home phone if you still have a landline. And two, if you're a minor, you need to be aware that you're still, and a minor, I mean, you're all minors, but I mean, if you're under the age of 16, there are some laws about working. Fortunately, most of these jobs will be in the summer, and those laws won't apply. So as a 14-year-old, there are jobs you can do on a job site. It's mostly the cleanup stuff and the stocking, but that's an important crucial area on a job site. If you're in an architectural office, you'll be doing things like collating sheets together to make steps to go out for bid. There are jobs you can do as a 14-year-old. That increases as you get older, as 16 and 17 are the next big bumps, but we do not make sure you're aware of that. Okay? All righty, here we go. Today, we have just a very short little, well, relatively short. We ought to put framing, just like we do on the floors. We need to show the framing of our roof. Now, typically, I don't do a lot of extra time on this because one, I'm going to send my roof plan, which is you have here in your browser. It'll look something like this. And this is just the upper roof right here. I'm going to send this as well as the lower roof to my truss manufacturer. And let me go and bring the next one down. Let's go down to first finish grade on there all the way. So I'm going to send all of this roof plan information to them. And what that's going to do is they're going to do their own truss design. Even though I've done one and I'm doing one today, I do that for me, but they're going to do their own because they have to build every truss in the factory. There are no trusses that are built on the job site. If we do rafters, those are done on the job site, and those are done usually with dimensional lumber, like 2x12s, 2x14s, and that means each one's placed and nailed individually. We don't do that a lot because one, that's old growth trees, and that's not very efficient, nor is it as strong as using our trusses. Okay, so that's the roof plan. You also have a roof framing plan, and that's where I'm going to go to here, is so I can see again all the roof lines and start to lay that out. These can get really overwhelming because you have to keep track of where your roof is being supported, and it's primarily exterior walls. It can get a little tricky to see, like these walls here, I've got to go in and fix. They connected to the top of the roof instead of the ceiling line. So I've got to fix these walls here are in error. So I'm just going to hide those because they're probably going to throw you guys off anyway. And so it's a little easier to see that, okay? Now, when you look at here, you can see all your ridges, you can see your valleys and your hips, but we need to show how the framing is going to go. Ultimately, this really does tell us everything we need to know about how to frame this house, but we want to show it a little bit more defined, okay? So we're going to use a lot of things here. I'm going to go into structure, and in structure, they have an area called trusses, okay? So it's right next to the floor. We're going to use the truss tool. So go ahead and click that, open. And you'll probably get, hey, you haven't got anything loaded in here yet. Do you want to do that? Well, you say, sure, I definitely want to do that. Otherwise, I want to pick the button. Programmers, always concerned they didn't push the wrong thing. So what that's going to do is going to bring you into your library. Cool. We're familiar with this now. We like it a lot. We play in there. It's kind of fun. I'm just going to scroll down, and I'm going to go all the way down to structural trusses. Now, why this doesn't automatic link, I don't know, but it's probably good to keep the memory down a little bit. So here we just open that up, and wow, there are a lot of trusses in there. So let's talk about what styles we have to begin with before you start choosing what you're going to use. We're going to start with the Fink. This is a guy named Fink. He's the one that did the math on it first. It's really nothing more than what, what's that? Pythagoras would have done. So it is just it's hard to make these bigger. I'm so sorry. It's a triangle. It's broken into small triangles. It's got a void in the middle, which would be attic space. Okay. We don't see a lot of Fink trusses used anymore. One, they give you this attic space, but you can't do anything with it. You will see them on the East Coast, however, because they put their furnaces up in the attic here. And so we'll see that. But that's about all the room you have in that attic space. But you'll notice that all of our trusses are triangular shaped. The next one is with a cambered bottom. And a camber just means it's broken for like a higher ceiling. Get a little bit higher ceiling in there. For right now, that would probably not apply if you have a second floor to put that on your lower floor. This would be the roof that's the highest. You might want to use these over like a master bedroom to give a little more height there for ceiling fans, that type of thing. But then you have to go in and you have to redo all of your ceilings. So right now, your ceilings came with your floor joists, except for on the upper floor. So your basement ceiling's done, your main floor ceiling is done, but if you get upstairs on the upper floor, there's not a ceiling there. So you'd have to create the ceiling to go along these beveled edges. Okay, so that's a little bit more work, but doable. Not something you need to worry about while you're on distance. This is something we can fix usually about 5 minutes of one-on-one time, which is really going to be my deal with you guys. I'm going to have to work with most of you one-on-one to get you caught back up. So on that note, many of you are at home working with the FTL files because you were working on version 21 here at school, and at home you're working on version 20 because that's like put on the laptops. We're going to have to tear that apart and move in the new stuff from the file at home onto the old stuff here at school. Those FTL files are basically mass models. They're not detailed, so you can't do things like select the roof line, automatic select tool. You have to trace off the roof. You cannot do things like change the line, the wall structure. It's just the mass now. But you can still add new things. So all the new things you add, I will work with you and we will move it all over to your file here at school and update it all together, and they'll all be really good. It's not uncommon to do that. It happens all the time. I was just not planning on doing it with 30 students, which is probably where we're going to be at. So, but that's not a big deal. Okay, easy. Don't stress on it. Just keep working. I just know that we have to merge two files together. Okay, so we've got the cambered bottom. Let's look at a how. A how truss is flat. It's more of a commercial use. These can be used for floor framing, however. They start out at 24 inches thick and go up to 6 feet thick. So 2 feet to 6 feet. They're an open truss. They just like to make these bigger. Let me do my draw thing here. So basically they're a line and a line, and you have vertical supports coming down all the way through there. And then they're fit together with angle pieces. So it's all open. That means you can run your plumbing through there, your wiring, you don't have to make any holes. They're all just like quick and easy to do. Okay, that's a how. They come in different styles. So we have just the plain one. There's a 6-panel gable truss. This is probably the most commonly used truss in the United States today. 6 divisions as it works across, triangle, vertical line comes down, and then it has angles that go up. Most of our angles, we try and shoot for 45. We know anything special about the 45-degree angle? Any of your math teachers give you any insights to the power of 45? It's half a 90. That's powerful. It's very powerful. Okay, so here you can take this back. 45 degrees, and while this truss is not a 45-degree triangle, it lets you understand when you work with engineering that this is the goal, is to get as close to 45-degree angles as we can. Doesn't mean it always works, okay? Doesn't mean it always works. But 45 degrees is the angle of natural stability. If you have a 45-degree inclined plane and you put a block on it, it will stay stationary. Friction's equalized with slope. And so it doesn't slide. If you go to a water table, you decide to be a civil engineer and work on water treatment facilities, our water tables, or our watersheds in Utah, that's these areas where they don't let dogs in the mountains. They have signs posted all over. A watershed is naturally at 45-degree incline. So when the water hits it from rain or snow, it stays trapped in that hillside because the angle is stable. That allows the water to filter naturally through the soils and come out cleaner at the other end. So it slows down that process. So 45-degree angles are pretty important. We try and use them as much as we can. The gable trusses don't always work that way. That means you're looking at something like a 12 and 12 pitch roof. Well, that's kind of insane. If you have to shingle that thing, you got to hang on because you're out of 45. You're moving. So we have a 6 panel. There's an 8 panel, a 10 panel, and a 12 panel. Most of the time you use a 6 or an 8. In fact, today that's probably to start with is a 6. If the engineer says change it, then we change it. But I'm not going to do more on the roof framing than I have to. Okay. The next, and these are all called hows. Even though we have a flat one, anytime you're doing the diagonal bracing, it's a how. They all have it though, so it's kind of a bad way to explain it. But here's a plat, also flat. The difference here, if you can see that, and let me see if I can show the difference. Kind of crazy world we live in. A how, if I take the middle center of it right here, then what's happening on that view is they come from the top and go down. So you'll see these on like train bridges, free span bridges. The Pratt is the other way around. We have the middle vertical and then they go up and then down. And so they're going up, whereas these are all going down. It's just flip-flopping them around. And what we need to recognize on these is that when you're working with trusses, there's always a force going down. Usually that's gravity or the weight of the building with gravity. Once the force hits one of these points, then half the force goes one direction, half goes another. In the center point, we have it broken into thirds. So we have a third going down. And then at this point, once the weight comes down, it then moves back out along the bottom chord. So each of these horizontal lines are called a chord. The stuff in the middle is called a flange. And once that weight gets down to the bottom, it moves back out to the bearing points of the walls. So we're taking the total weight and we're dividing it up into lots of different pieces. Hopefully that kind of helps. All that good stuff. To kind of go through Pratts are, they just truss. Then you have scissor trusses. These are probably the premier way of doing vaulted ceilings, and they're not really vaulted. They're an angled ceiling. A vaulted ceiling means you're seeing the bottom of the roof on the inside of the house. That's a true vault. But scissor trusses give that illusion. They give us the ability to lift the inside ceiling a little bit higher without restructuring the entire roof system. We have a simple think, which we had up here at the top, but it's also W truss. Very, very, very simple. You'll see these used probably like dormer windows where they're not carrying a lot of weight. They just don't have much structure to them. Warrens, again, another type of flat truss. A lot of flat trusses loaded for commercial. And then we have the cambered as well. And these are Different ways. You'll see these in garages sometimes with the top cord being cambered. So now we have our trusses. Like I said, I'm going to go with most likely, you know, I usually use the Howe as my go-to. It's just traditional, what I've always used. Again, your manufacturer's going to choose one that's going to meet the requirements the engineer has. And if it comes up to slightly different, that's fine. It really is up to the engineer. Why do you not want to be involved in that choice? Yeah, if you're involved, then you're taking liability. So if you're not involved, if you let the engineer and the truss manufacturer work that out, then if the snow load on the building causes the roof to sag, you have an out. You are not involved in that decision. That was an engineer call. It's their insurance that fixes it, not yours. Okay. Now, for you guys who are starting out doing house plans, that insurance would be your homeowner's insurance. Now, here's the real kicker. I did house plans at 18. I was paying for college doing that. I didn't have a home, so I didn't have homeowner's insurance. That's a little scary when I think back on that. You can get short-term liability insurance just to carry. But what I found, and here's the way to get around that, because I just was a designer and I'm not a licensed architect, if my engineer puts their stamp, their professional stamp on the drawings, the liability is all theirs in residential design. So that means that at 18 and you're trying to pay for college, you are good to go as long as you get an engineer to review your work. Okay, that means you may have to pay for it. That's usually how it goes. You take the money from your client and use that money for your profit, but also pay for the engineer. So don't be silly and charge like 25 cents a square foot. You won't be making enough money. That's crazy, a little small. You want to be right now, most of you should be charging at least 50 cents a square foot to do a house to start with. That'd be the bare minimum. And we could even graduate. You could do 50 cents a square foot for the main floor, 45 cents for the second floor, and usually basements are unfinished. So you could do that for 30 cents, in the garage for 50 cents. Make sure you figure that all out and see that's worth it before you quote. Don't quote anybody until you're okay with the price you're going to tell them. Because once you give them the price, you're kind of bound to it, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead, the 6th panel here. I'm going to open that up. Open up, please. Thank you. And at that point, I'm ready to put the truss in. Now, I'm going to work here on this lower level right here because I can explain what we're doing a little easier on this. This is a full gable truss. This is a hip roof. The gable starts here at the point where the slopes all come together. So if I'm going to put this in, first you've got a bottom bearing cord, and let's see where let's slide that up and see it. You want to look at your level. Right now, you don't have any change in where the level this is going. That's fine. Don't stress over it. You can do little things like the truss height. That depends on your slope. And if you look here, there's no slope involved. So I've got to do some exploratory design, basically, okay? So when I put my first truss in, I always start where this connection is. And you're going to take a line, and I'm just going to go right across that whole expanse right there. Okay. Now, I get this message that my beam or brace is slightly off axis, which means I didn't draw a straight line. So I'm going to redo that one because you do want these to be straight because you're not copying them. And that is the kicker. So I'm going to go up just a little higher, make sure I'm going a straight line. There we go. No warning. So watch for that. You don't want these skewed because if you're offsetting things at an angle, they all of a sudden end up not in your house at all. Okay, as they go off. Now I'm going to do a move here because I want to put it right where I want it at. I'm going to take from the midpoint right back to that section right there. At this point, I've got to go see what I've done. I just got a line there, great line, looks great, feels great. So jump to 3D. Oh, wow, look at that line in the back. I think that might be a wee tad tall, right? So looks cool, not really. Again, it's not going to look like it's built. These are symbols. You can get them to look exactly like they're built, but you'll spend the better part of the day editing each and every one of them. It's not necessary. It really, really isn't. So let's say there's a couple things we can do. Let's start with our attached top bottom. So I'm gonna activate that first, and then select the truss, attach top bottom, and the roof. Okay, so that dropped down. That's a good thing. I do get a warning down here that says truss layout family defines an offset or non-horizontal top chord. This may conflict. Okay, well now I gotta go find out why that would conflict. It looks right. It's below my roof. I'm happy about that, but I need more information. So to do this, I'm gonna have to go find my first floor plan, because that's where I can see things. First floor. And I'm going to use my section line, and I'm just going to bring that over. So I'm looking in the direction where that truss is. That truss, in theory, should be right across here. So it's just, this is where those points come together. So it's going down 45 degrees down from this corner, 45 from this corner. They should meet over this wall location. And so when you look at your roof plans, you'll notice that your hips and your valleys are almost always at 45-degree lines. That's part of the three-dimensional trig, how it works out. We like that a lot. Let's go to view. And no truss. Oh, nice. Now I'm scared. There is no truss there. Dang. Okay. So it completely disappeared. This is why you check. Okay, so when I check and it's all gone, I'm going, well, that was a real kick in the teeth. Why don't I just go back to the dentist now and not do any Novocaine? Okay, we won't do that. So back to structure. Now, I'm going to go back in my section real quick, because what I want to know is this height. It asks me for the height. So I measure here in the section cut from the top of the wall, which is this line here, up to, and you might be easier to go down because you're picking lines. I don't want to be at the top of the roof. I want to be underneath the finished material, and just bring that straight down. I want to build a truss that is all of 2'6", well, 2'5" in height. That's gonna be a little tricky. That's a small truss. Okay, so let's see if we can even do that. Back to roof framing, structure. There's my truss again. Still there. Now I'm going to change the truss height from 8 feet to 1, was it 2'5"? Yeah, 2'5", 2'5". I'm going to apply that. I didn't get any error messages, so that's a good sign. I come across, I'm going to drag my line across again. Now the created elements are visible. Okay, that's swell. Why? They should be visible. I'm just having a little issue. Why are they not visible? Oh, my active views are off. Okay. Okay, so it's talking about here, it's not visible because my active view is not showing it. And when this happens, there's a couple things you need to do. One is the visibility settings. We have not talked about those yet, mainly because if you screw these up, things are really screwed up. But we're at the point now where we have to move forward, and that's kind of our nature. So over in your properties area, underneath all this grand stuff, we get off the truss line. If I scroll down through, you're going to look for a view. You're not going to see it here at all because you're in the truss mode. So as long as it has a truss here, you're not going to see what you want to do. So hit modify. That's to put you back in the plan mode. And then if you look down slowly, you're looking for your view range right here. Is the first thing we're going to look at. So I'm going to hit edit on the view range. And this is where you can really mess things up a lot. So let me try and explain this in a way that you understand it. Okay. This is associated with the roof, which is down 6 feet below the level roof, which is, so I'm looking down 6 feet below where the roof actually is. The bottom here is at 4 feet, and I got 15 feet here. So what does that really tell you? Not a whole lot, because you're going, oh. So I click on the show button here, which will give you an idea of what you're looking at, okay? It's a small little guy to look at. So key is that it's all keyed. Number 1 is my primary range. My primary range is from this top point down to this, so basically this blue area. Okay, that's your primary range. If you notice, it is not anywhere near the upper part of my house. So if I'm trying to see the roof, it's just not going to be there. Even though I'm set for the roof, that's where it's supposed to be, and it's offset from that, I'm not seeing that. If I look here, I can do basically unlimited, and I'm going to apply that. And if nothing shows, that means your truss isn't there. That's not a good thing. So let me cancel this a minute so I can figure out where that went. Why did it not put the truss in? Okay, we are, yes, sir. Well, why don't you do what I'm doing? Okay, just a second. I'm trying to, whoa. There's my truss. All right, I found it. I was looking the wrong direction. So there's my truss. And I look at that, and I'm going, what have I done? So as you place your trusses, finding it is a big part. And the worst part on here is it is not inside my roof. It really is inside my roof. This little piece right here is part of the truss, and it's down inside. It's also hanging down below my roof line. So if I can select that so we can get that to hold. So when I have this guy in here and it's down below, I've got a few things I've got to worry about here. Let's see if I can get a hold of that right. And selecting it is not always easy. There's the 2 endpoints for the bearing on this. I'm going to raise offset from the bottom. So here's my level off point, and it's got these -9 feet. So from the top of where my roof set is, and where do you find that? My roof is up here at 18 feet, is my highest roof. If I come down 9 foot from that, that's halfway down. That's about in this area. That's where I'm getting these offset numbers. So the tricky part about these automatic trusses is getting everything set right. And I've got a guy that needs some help, but I want to go here. We're going to go edit type on this for a minute and look at these trusses a little deeper. Now we found it. And there's actually 2 in there. When you bring up the sizes, everything is being drawn from the center of the beam. You can change that. And this is probably going to be a lot more work. To something like auto detect, you can do it from the location of a line, from the top of the beam, or from the bottom of the beam. So these are your top chords. If I do auto detect and do 1 change at a time, if you do a change and then hit apply without closing, it'll show you if that's going to make any difference over here. Okay? If nothing's happening, then that change is not affecting that value. So that's a top chord. The top is going along the angle. Your bottom chords are always horizontal on a truss. Then you have your vertical webs and your diagonal. This peak is a result of the vertical there. So I got framing types, I've got pin. Under framing types, you can change it down to a smaller lumber. Now, when we build trusses, if we look at what they've given us here to choose from, dimensional lumber, you have a 2x10 and a 2x12. You have a porch truss. You've got laminated lumber. None of these are what we make trusses out of. Trusses are made out of 2x6s and 2x4s always for residential. Residential trusses are made out of 2x4s and 2x6s. The bottom cord is a 2x6. The top cord is a 2x4. The diagonal and the vertical cords are 2x4s. Very economical to build that way because we're not using large oak wood. So I'm looking at my truss and going, well, this isn't anything like I'd buy. How do I even get that to look right, let alone be right? Okay. Now, before I move on and give you the fix for this, I'm going to go help with a question real quick on something that's behind that stopped me mid-lecture rather than wait for lab time. I'll be right back. And I want you to think about what the fix for this is going to be. Some of you may have already run across it in your daily